That's a lot of damage!
How's it going, everyone? I'm back with some actual content this time. So in this video, I'm going to be showing everyone how to consistently deal damage cap with antimatter drop just by stacking buffs together and without the use of sonar, because sonar is just simply just cheating and it's really inconsistent, and Banshee in general is just so unbelievably stupid. It's not even, it's like, who cares? Now, to pull this off, you're going to need 4 frames. Obviously, you're going to need Nova. You're also going to need Chroma, and then an Ember and a Nidus. Now, essentially, the reason why we picked these set of frames is because they optimize the buffs on Nova's antimatter drop as efficiently as possible, and you get the largest buffs that you possibly can. Obviously, you can get higher buffs with something like Banshee and Sonar, but like I said, it's cheating, so we're going to ignore Banshee entirely in this video. Now, in regards to why this works and or how it works, essentially Nova's antimatter drop is actually considered to be a weapon, and I want to thank both Crixus and Gardog for finding this out. I think they both found it out separately, and essentially all we did was just try to optimize this as much as possible. Now, since it acts like a weapon, you can add both fire damage to it, and you can also increase damage via buffs like Octavia's Amp and Chroma's Vex Armor. Now, the Fairy buff from Vex Armor is very nice, as you can achieve huge numbers with it. I'm sure most of you know 10 times damage is pretty easy to do with Chroma, but as soon as you add a Nidus, you can get it up to 20 times without much issue. So now you're at 20 times damage on your antimatter drop. All you have to do is add an Ember, and your Nidus obviously already just buffed the Chroma, and I'll go into all this math in just a little bit. To actually hit the damage cap on enemies though, you're going to have to make sure every single buff is up at the same time. You're going to end up with roughly around 2.8 billion damage per hit, and obviously that's just raw damage, assuming a flat 1.0 multiplier versus all the different enemy health types and all that stupid jazz, but ignoring all the health type modifiers, you're going to be doing 2.8 billion damage. Now, in this footage that you're seeing right now, I'm not hitting 2.8 billion damage for every single instance because it's just not necessary, right? You don't need to be doing that much damage to get through 99.9% of the game. The only enemies that this is even relevant on is, level cap enemies, and to get to those level cap enemies, you have to be going ridiculously far in missions. Also, it's just not very efficient to hit damage cap on every single hit, because if you have to have all the buffs activated, you're kind of just wasting your energy and pressing way too many buttons, just increasing your chances of getting carpal tunnel syndrome. So instead of doing that, we just used the regular buffs, and we were still hitting several 100 million damage, which is plenty to one-shot any enemy 150 minutes in. Now, we were actually going for about 190 minutes just to get the point at which, the scaling switches from exponential to linear, but we never got there because of host disconnect, but that's okay. So now I'm just going to go over the general formula with you guys. Essentially, here's like a key, and you can pause the video to see exactly what's going on. I tell you all the buffs, like total damage, antimatter damage, fury buff, link buff, M prime buff, accelerant buff, and accelerant multiplier. And the huge formula is written out there. It's essentially just multiplying everything. The actual multipliers are not at base. They're the ones that are... they're the modified multipliers, so after you've already accounted for all the power strength. So you're going to have to do the power strength individually and then plug everything into this formula, and then you'll be able to find out your total damage. Okay, now on to the other key assumptions. Now with this particular formula, we're also assuming all frames except for the Nova, because her antimatter damage isn't affected by power strength, have at least 300% power strength. And then you add on the 100% bonus from growing power, because you're also assuming that everybody has growing power on, so 0.25 times 4 is 1 times 100 is 100% power strength. Now, so basically all frames here have 400% power strength, but now in the actual game, you can kind of modify this. It's going to be a lot easier to get frames like Nidus and Chroma up over that 300% mark, where it's going to be a little bit hard to get Ember up to that level. So at which point you can basically account for the lower power strength with the Ember by buffing both Chroma's power strength and Nidus's power strength up over 300%, and 2.8 billion isn't even the limit to this. You can obviously take it quite a bit further. Okay, so now let's go through this huge mess of math that we have here. Again, all frames are assumed to have 300% base power strength. We add in the extra 100% from growing power. That gives us 400%. So 25% power strength from each individual growing power times 4 frames gives us 400%, 100%, 300 plus 100 is 400. There you go. Nidus. 0.25 is the base percent bonus power strength that he has. This is multiplicative, not additive, so just keep that in mind. So 0.25 times 300 plus 100 over 100 is just 4. So 0.25 times 4 gives us a 1.0 bonus or 100% extra power strength. This is essentially doubling the power strength on all of our frames that we have, so both the Ember and the Chroma is going to be affected by it. Nova obviously doesn't really get any bonus at all from a bunch of extra power strength, so at least as far as damage is concerned, so there's no real reason to do it to her. Now the Chroma is going to have a 275% base extra damage. You plug in all the math again, the 4.0, and we get 24 times damage on him, so he's got a 24 times multiplier. Again, 300% assumed. We can get him to a lot higher if you really wanted to. Now Ember has 3 base multipliers. We have 100% base extra bonus fire damage from Fireball Frenzy Augment, which can be applied to the Nova in this particular situation, and then she also has a 50% extra fire damage from Flash Accelerant. Now, Flash Accelerant is another team multiplier that is applied additively with the 100% base from her Fireball Frenzy. Now, the 2.5 base is also from Accelerant. Accelerant has both the additive fire damage and then the separate multiplier. So the 2.5 multiplier is the third thing that we have to take into account for here. So you plug all this in, we got 300 plus 100 over 100, and then the 4 times. So it's a 500% bonus damage, and then you're adding 500% over 2 for 750%. 750% times 2 is 1500% damage, minus 2.5 times 300 plus 100 over 100 equals 10 times 2 or 20 times damage. Now, time to plug everything into this huge formula. Basically, we're just all condensing everything that we've just done and getting our final damage versus just regular enemies with no special modifiers. Obviously, every single enemy type, because it's both radiation and fire damage, is going to have some kind of special multiplier versus this. So you're not going to see 2,880,000,000 damage for 2 reasons. One, Warframe works on a 32-bit integer system, so you can only hit 2 to the 31st, or it's only displayed as 2 to the 31st, which is basically 2.147 billion damage. So you won't even be able to see this number, but anyways, you're actually dealing it. So we have 200,000, which is the base damage on antimatter drop. Again, completely unaffected by power strength. If this was affected by power strength, it'd be a lot more. So, I mean, DE, please, maybe. Times 24 times 2. The times 2 is just the molecular prime buff plus 200,000, and if you're wondering why we're adding 200,000 twice, it's because the first 200,000 is only the radiation damage, and then the second is the fire damage. And the fire damage is significantly more than the radiation, and that's mainly because it's getting affected by Ember, because Ember is such an amazing buffer frame. So, added the second 200,000 times 24, which is the chroma part of it, times 2 for the molecular prime. 1500 over 100 is just 15 times 20 gives us 2.88 times 10 to the 9th, or 200 or 2 billion and then 880 million damage. Again, very interesting. It's a lot of damage, but other than that, it's not practical in the regular game at all. I guess you could do like long runs with this if you really wanted to. It's just interesting that you can actually practically hit damage cap on a Warframe ability all the time versus pretty much whatever enemy you want. If you get this power strength a little bit higher, it's going to be, 3-4 billion damage isn't totally unrealistic if you really wanted to do that much. I'd also like to point out that this can be made even more silly by either doing this in arbitrations or in a fissure mission, because you all get even more bonus power strength in those particular missions. I'm sure if you did the math out, it'd probably be around 10 billion damage that you could achieve. Obviously not practical at all, but still kind of fun. But anyways, if you've made it this far in the video, I thank you for watching. If you haven't already joined the Discord, I highly suggest you do so. A link's going to be down in the video description. And as always, I'd like to thank you for watching the video, and I hope to see you in the next one.